Station weather, a gorgeous week for us with temps a little bit lower than they have been. Mostly sunny this week with highs in the mid to upper 80s with lows in the low 60s. For anything SCV related, go to hometownstation.com. News, sports, and information. You can also see us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at KHTS Radio.
Welcome. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We're live with my co-host, Alex. Alex, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you, Brien?
I'm very good. Alex was telling me before how there's hardly any traffic on his drive here. He couldn't imagine that he, could go 90 miles an hour the whole way. Sorry.
No traffic in Southern California
now know that
ever.
He went 90, but that's okay.
Ever.
We have a wonderful guest, but before we get there, just want to go over a couple of things. For people that have not listened to the Ask Brien show, and that's ASKBRIEN, shame on you. Ask Brien is a website and a radio show, and the website basically allows experts to ask and answer questions, post videos, webinars, ebooks, and blogs to basically educate business owners about any business subject. That's what the Ask Brien website is for. This is an extension each week. We interview a person that's involved in either a startup or has some business expertise that can really try to help our listeners. Our listeners in the KHTS area are of any grouping, anywhere from mom and pop store owners to big land developers. So we have a lot of people here, and in any way we can help a business owner, that's the goal of Ask Brien, and that's ASKBRIEN.com. And our guest is David Park. And David, are you there?
I am here, Brien.
Okay, so a couple of things. For our listeners that don't know you, let's get a little bit of your background. What are you currently working on?
I'm a venture capitalist investing in high-technology startups. I've had a career that's run the range of early stage to working on Wall Street or working for institutional investors. And today I'm working on things having to do with complex social problems, so things like obesity, wellness, things that are large and systemically complex.
So are you focusing then on health?
Health is one of the areas that we currently focus on, yes.
And do you have a company or is it just yourself?
I have an investment firm, and I have a bunch of associates. We run our own proprietary research process, and we provide some of those things on advisory to other investors, but then we also are a primary investor ourselves.
So before we go into basically creating a startup and making a startup work, I have a very interesting question, and that is, what does a startup need to do to get funded?
That's a great question. It's usually first on most people's list. I would say do the homework. There is capital available from many different sources, most often not venture capitalists who have a higher level of bar than friends and family or other sources. I would say do the homework, and if you own the research and you own the knowledge, you should be able to get through the roadblocks to finding money.
And are there sources on the Internet that you can go to find these people?
That's a tough
yes
question
no.
there, Brien.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
We asked the tough questions.
That's a tough question.
We're the 60 Minutes of radio.
Well, hopefully there's not a knock on the door soon. But
Mike Wallace is there.
Yes, exactly. Capital is very social, right? So you tend to start with friends and family and then work outwards from there. Networking, which many people have a hard time doing because it requires putting themselves out there, requires some going around. But I still believe in the face-to-face method.
Old school.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, craft your story, but back it up with research and just socialize yourself first. People tend to, I think, invest in people that they like and that they believe in, much more so than a bunch of numbers or, a big business idea.
Have you ever invested in a company that just contacted you cold?
Most often not, no. Actually, I can't think of a single one.
Okay, now we're going to go back. We're going to go backwards because we started about funding and how to get the funding or what you need to do. Now we're going to start out with, we're going to have a fictitious company. It's called Alco. My guest host, Alex. Alco is the name of a company, and we're not talking about the aluminum company. But
okay, that's Alco and not Alpo, right? We're just being very clear here.
Right, and not Alcoa, which now changed their name and did a reverse split about a couple years ago. So, I own. I own 3 furniture stores. I want to go online, and I'm just thinking about how I would do that. What would I do? So, what would we think would be the first step? You had 3 furniture stores, one in Newhall, one in Sylmar, and one in Granada Hills down the road. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but what would I do?
Somewhat, yes. Not as much as Alex, because apparently if he can get there without any traffic, he knows the back roads better than most people. But
and he also has a helicopter buddy, but that's okay.
Or he left at 12 o'clock last night. I would say the first thing is, honestly, as you look to expand online, which is the question that you're posing, how to build an e-commerce strategy, is I would take a look at the existing business that you're in, because with 3 retail outlets, you have 3 headaches, right? As they always say, one business is great, then you have 2, and the headaches start to multiply. So I would look first at the metrics and the cost basis of the existing business and do everything that you can first to make sure that the business that you're in is running as optimally and efficiently as possible. And once you understand that, then you can look at how are other people moving online. Are they just wholesale winding down their existing operations and going without stores? Or are they looking for an expansion strategy based on social media or other platforms, for example?
So from what I'm gathering and what I hear, and this is how I'm interpreting it, my first goal would be I have to come up with some type of systems. Make sure that my systems are in place. I'm running at an efficiency level, and once have those systems in place, then I can really grow it and expand it.
I would say yes, because if you have an existing business, hopefully you're making profit. Any new expansion you're going to make or any other lateral or differential strategy is going to cost you money. So you want to make sure that you have as much money as possible to then go into the new strategy and to act on that accordingly.
Well, and then you have a whole bunch of logistic issues, because if you're selling furniture, that may be good on the local market where people come into your store and can sit down on the couch or sit down on the recliner and enjoy it, whereas somebody from New Hampshire who wants to buy that recliner hasn't seen it, doesn't know what it's like. I'm sure the shipping cost has got to be a little bit on the high end, I would think.
Well, so you picked a very interesting example, in that we're seeing this being disrupted today, where we've seen mattress stores for a long time, and people have known that there have been high margins in the mattress store business, but then they also have to cover a lot of overhead, and all the sales happen periodically. And then all of a sudden somebody figured out that you could really vacuum seal a foam mattress, and you have 3 or 4 competitors from Lisa or others shipping that and taking advantage of the distribution systems. And they're also being funded massively by venture capitalists who think that's the next big thing. So you can imagine being the mattress corner store guy, and all of a sudden millennials aren't buying your mattresses. They're not even coming into the store. They're just clicking and buying. And that shift may happen to furniture. So you always have to ask yourself, particularly in the retail disruption business, are you in a place where you're going to get disrupted by other competitors, some of whom didn't exist a month ago, with massive capital infusions? And that's how you have to manage accordingly.
Have you invested in any of these companies that you referring to that's disruptive in any industry where you've had to take a real gamble? And have you done any of that type of investing?
In those instances, no. Our investment thesis is a little bit more complex. Usually when you're managing large sums of money, the venture capital industry today has become one of larger and larger funds, which of course equates to a larger management fee, whether you're successful or not. You're typically making money off the management fee, and then you can make larger and larger bets. So being a much smaller firm where we basically have a reputation for finding things that are way off the beaten path, we tend not to invest in chase the rainbow where there's 10 or 12 horses in the race.
You don't like the goal at the end of the rainbow?
Well, the goal at the end of the rainbow is good, but being in a 12-horse race is not typically enjoyable. We really, our investment edge is really in complexity and in going early and going consistently. We haven't necessarily talked to people about the strategy that much, but we call it much more like venture farming with the metaphor of a farmer, or much more along the lines of what we're starting to call values-based investing or value capitalist, because venture and capital are widely available in the marketplace today, but investment on principle and investment for the long term is not. So we're trying to go where everybody else is not, per se.
Well, Alex is salivating. He's got a question.
Yeah. So, David, I know a little of your background, and I would say that, as an investor, you have a lot of chops there, but you've also been an entrepreneur as well, right? Give us a little bit of your background, because I think that a lot of people look at investment and the way they get it, and they say, well, this guy's never really been in business. He's got some big degree and has never really done it. But you've done that, right? I mean, you started a business when you were young, right?
That's correct, Alex. So I started at the age of 13, taking my bar mitzvah money and buying and selling other people's products. So that was kind of the first available capital that I got directly from friends and family. And it was product that somebody else had made but didn't have the marketing angle to go make and sell. And I found the market edge, and I sold out all the product and quadrupled my money in 4 days. So that was kind of a nice early windfall. But from there, really, it just was getting involved always at the organic and the ground level. And so people always ask, how did you get to where you're doing, or how do you go do it? At the end of the day, you just have to go do it. So whether it was becoming a partner in a computer store in the early 80s when I was 15 to anything else, I write a lot of letters and I do a lot of outreach, and a lot of it is personal. If I read something about somebody in the paper that is interesting, I'll buy them a book or just start a process. So I started about 6 different businesses. Not all have been successful, but all taught me valuable lessons along the way, mostly always in technology. At the leading edge of technology is where I've operated.
You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Alex?
I think that's a great answer. I'm a little taken back, because it's true. 6 businesses is a lot of time, and for a young guy, a lot of effort, and really you do learn a lot in every business. My own personal experience, I know that you can always learn from it and grow from it, but getting started in any business is really hard. Reinventing a business, and what you were talking about, Brien, in the world of going from brick and mortar to the internet can be really tough. A lot of people, can't get there, and a lot of other people, they put a plan together, and by the time they do, you find that someone has just jumped up, as David said, and they weren't there a month ago, and all of a sudden you're ready to hit it really hard, and there they are with a great idea, and you're like, why didn't I think of that?
So here's a question for you. So my belief is that you've got all these retail stores out there. They're all, they're not all going out of business. There's still going to be always the community that's going to say, yeah, I can call Prime and get it tomorrow, but I'm going to want to, there's still going to be a retail stores out there. So my belief is that the retail store is going to have more quality or more service or something along those lines. They're not going to be able to compete, I believe, in price. Price is going to be able to be easier on the internet because people don't have to pay for the real estate. They don't have to pay for the holding on to the inventory, is my belief. Correct me. You can disagree with me or not. So do you agree or disagree that if you're an owner of a retail store, most likely you're going to have to spend more of your effort, if you don't go online, to figure out a way to come up with a quality service viewpoint to maintain your business? That's a question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So the question is, are you going to have to keep coming up with a superior experience to really retain your business? I would say yes. I mean, if you look at Disney, for example, well, what does Disney sell? Disney sells an experience. There was a great book out, I believe it was in the mid-'90s, called The Experience Economy. I think maybe it was Hagel and Singer, or Joseph Pine and James Gilmore it was. And it talked about the emergence then of the Nike stores, right? And when I had a computer retail store in the mid-'80s, this thing called CompUSA started. I think it was in Atlanta in '86, and we were like, wow, superstore, supermarket selling computer stuff. And we were a tiny 2,400 square foot store in Buffalo, New York, selling, used computers and software. So we went to go see it, and we were impressed. But ultimately, we found our edge by improving the local customer service. And, it's going to be a combination of things. Retail is definitely not necessarily going away, but it's definitely changed dramatically. It's if things are available at the push of a button, and convenience and price are going to be main drivers of consumers' experiences, particularly as the younger generation, dominates the retail landscape.
Well, you really hit me one thing, and that is I'm a graduate of the University of Buffalo, and I graduated in 1986. And so I was at the Amherst campus mostly. I also lived on the Main Street campus. And
did not know that.
I have what a small world. So you actually had You had a store.
We were in the old Stereo Advantage store at 5687 Main Street, a store called Amherst Computer Exchange.
Wow.
And since you were in Buffalo, you know that the Stereo Advantage for years was a dominating consumer experience. They constantly changed things to create the environment that you could showcase and put into contextual. How did those products work? So if you remember, if you ever went to that store, it was the different speakers with the different screens and a lot of education. Now, over time, the consumer becomes used to what is the basics, what is 1080p, 720, whatever the speeds and feeds are, and that becomes less of a requirement. So that was the environment that I grew up in over 25 years ago.
Well, back in '86, I was buying my first computer I bought was a K-Pro, K-A-Y-P-R-O. I don't know if you've heard of that.
No, we used to resell the K-Pros, and if it was used and not available, so maybe we sold it to you. Maybe I sold it to you. I don't know. If I did, you got a really good deal.
I was going to ask you for the discount, but oh well.
I'll have to check my commission sheets.
You hit on an interesting thing, David. We've seen this, right? Retail or these brick and mortar versus the internet, and what's really changed over there, and how stores have to compete. And you mentioned Stereo Advantage having this better customer experience to be able to look at different systems and compare them. We're seeing that at brick and mortars like Best Buy today, where you go in there and they have an experience department, whether it's their computer department or their television department. You can compare 100 different TVs, or you can see different sound systems, or you can sit a Mac next to a Dell or whatever HP PC they have there and actually get that experience. I think that's something that's really hard to do online, even with things like reviews, because we all know certain reviews aren't necessarily realistic. So maybe that's where the retail experience really changes and gets better.
I would agree. It's in service. So if you click and you order today an Amazon Alexa or an Alexa Echo Dot, and you order a universal remote controller from Logitech or other people, some assembly required. And Best Buy, in their service aspect, is doing very good business with things like that, where consumers want the convenience and they want the expertise versus just the parts.
And don't they own Geek Squad?
That's still a brand they own. I don't know if they promote it as much, but they definitely own it. And they're now led by a unconventional CEO. When Hubert Joly, I believe his name is, took over, it wasn't clear that they were to have a future, and today they're doing it. Another leader that's doing that is Target with Brien, who just reported tremendous earnings. So, I think retail is not dead. It's not all going to be Amazon or bust, but clearly, with their power and their experience, they're shifting the ground underneath which retailers stand today.
Well, my office is in Century City, and in the Century City Mall adjacent, there is an Amazon store that just opened. So it's kind of comical, or not comical, I think more of an irony, that Amazon is putting many of these retailers out of business, and yet here they are attempting to open up retail locations, realizing that there is still some value to be on the ground. There is some value to be able to have that product and people to touch it and feel it. And I think that's the key. People still need... first of all, for one thing, you're not going to take your dry cleaning and put it in a box and send it off to Michigan to have your dry cleaning come back. It's just I don't see the cost effectiveness in some of those things.
Well, now you won't do that with your dry cleaning, Brien, but people will do that with their family heirloom photos, and those will go to Mexico or India, and maybe you'll get most of them back. So it's kind of crazy in terms of what
It's kind of crazy where this. Actually, David, one question came up that was kind of interesting here. Someone was saying, for someone who's never invested in a business or in anything, what's a good starting point? How would they become an investor in, say, a small business or a startup?
Well, Alex, before you go there, does it indicate an investment in a small business, or does it just say an investment? Because you do have the stock market, right?
That's right.
So, but anyway, let's go to our guest, and then we'll put on our 10 cents, and maybe we'll get a quarter out of it. Go ahead, David.
Answering that question, if somebody wants to invest in a business, most people today, the general public, is massively underinvested in the stock market in general. And as as your readers or listeners may know, that we've had tremendous returns in the market. So if they have the opportunity with capital available to invest, my first advice would be look to invest in the market. And they can do that in a number of ways, from an index fund, which is a no-brainer kind of way of buying the whole market, to picking individual stocks. Picking an individual investment is harder, and there are a lot of limitations and requirements that you have to be accredited investor in many cases, or you have to invest through other mechanisms. So there are a wide range of options that are out there, from public markets to non-liquid markets.
So I'm going to break this question down to 3 different ways, okay? So option 1 is, okay, that's the stock market answer we gave, okay? I have $100,000, and I want to invest in a business that I think is going to grow, but I don't want to go onto the stock market because there's too much competition, too many people out there. I want to find a company to invest in that I think I can make my money. What would I do?
Well, if you're just going to unilaterally decide to pick a company to go invest in, typically people will pick something that they have some familiarity with and go from there. So you can look at business brokers. You can look at just local businesses. I mean, there are many people that have invested by going into a restaurant or going into a dry cleaner or a coin laundry and saying, "Look, I really like this business. I have some capital. I'd like to help you grow it." And in fact, that TV show on CNBC with that gentleman is very successul, and that's typically what the profit. Yeah, what Marcus Lemonis does. And if you can convince somebody to take your money in, for you to become part of the ownership, well, there you go. That's an investment at any level.
Okay, we've got to take a break. We're going to be right back in about 2 minutes, and we're here with David Park and my co-host Alex.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
Olive Terrace Bar and Grill is the hottest new Mediterranean fusion restaurant in Santa Clarita with unique delicacies like seafood right off the boat, mouth-watering prime steaks, artesian sandwiches, delicious pastas, and tasty kebabs. Unwind on their cozy outdoor patio at their weekend champagne brunch, full menu, and weekly specials at oliveterracebarandgrill.com. Check out their full bar and happy hour daily specials in Valencia on Copper Hill and Newhall Ranch Road by LA Fitness. Olive Terrace Bar and Grill, delicious food seasoned with love.
AV Equipment Rentals is your local rental store. No matter how big or small your home project is, AV Equipment Rental has the tool you need to do the job right. From painting to plumbing, landscaping to automotive, their knowledgeable staff will make sure you get the right tool for the right price. In fact, they'll even help you load it in your car. I bet you didn't know they have propane to fill up your barbecue tank with no minimum quantity. With a large supply of tools and a helpful and professional staff with a hometown service attitude, AV Equipment Rental is your local Santa Clarita rental authority. Stop by AV Equipment Rentals today on Railroad Avenue in Newhall.
At City of Hope, we don't believe the future can wait for the future. For over a century, we've been advancing science that saves lives. From 4 of the world's top cancer-fighting drugs to the development of synthetic human insulin. We are maximizing the potential of immunotherapy and making precision medicine a reality. It's not enough to promise future cures for cancer. We must find them sooner. We are the miracle of science with soul. Find out more at cityofhope.org.
This is Savannah Burrows.
And I'm Hannah Greenwald.
And we're bringing the local art scene out of the shadows and into the light.
Join us this Saturday at 10 a.m. for our new show, Santa Clarita Unplugged.
In-depth interviews and raw in-studio performances with the creative forces at the center of Santa Clarita's cultural energy.
Santa Clarita Unplugged, 10 a.m. this Saturday.
Exclusively on your hometown station, KHTS.
Catch the podcast at hometownstation.com.
KHTS. Now FM, 98.1 FM, and AM 1220, your hometown station.
Welcome back. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We have my co-host Alex and as very special guest Dave Park. David, you there?
I'm here.
Well, we had a lot of good questions. One of my questions was, I've been told if I want to really expand my business and I have a tech product, that I should try to get into an accelerator program. What do you think of? First of all, not everybody knows what an accelerator program is. So let's first start out. What is an accelerator program? Your definition. And then 2, do you think it's a good idea? 3, how would you get into it?
Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Accelerator programs are mentorship and investment vehicles that are set up to basically bring in people to help them make their business idea into a more refined and executable or ultimately investable vehicle or product. They're typically providing some capital, some working space, and some mentorship. They have a competition and development orientation, and they have kind of a group feel. So it's kind of like going on a group tour of the sites, as it were. How do you get into one? You typically apply. There's many more people applying than are accepted, but there are many other people today that have accelerators, not just in Silicon Valley. You'll find them by local development organizations, economic, regional, et cetera. It's a pretty big trend for the last 10 years.
So, David, I get a lot of people who come to me and they always go, "I have a fantastic idea. How do I start first?" I mean, both you and I have been entrepreneurs. We've done things, and we've built things before we've patented them. We've patented things before we built them. But people always have a great idea. But I always find most of the time, if they'll actually talk to me about it, I'll usually say, "Well, I've seen that before. Or that's been done before." People, have a hard time figuring out what's new and what's different. And I always wonder, is this I'm in the shower and I just came up with this idea? And before they go spend money or do things, how do they kind of work on figuring out if this is real or not, and whether it's something they should do? And if it is a great idea, how do they go forward with it? So a couple questions in there.
You're taking after me now.
I know.
Exactly. So there was a book that I read many years ago. It's a fantastic book. It's called Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done. It's by Larry Bossidy and Ram Charan, 2 great business leaders. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what matters. So it is one foot in front of the other. And a lot of people that have ideas, if they're technical or product development oriented, don't necessarily have the skills to then manifest those ideas. A lot of the ideas, however, on the opposite side that you see come into the digital world are built by engineers that don't actually have the business development and management skills. So ultimately, I think you need to write your idea down and then look at all of the things that may be standing in the way of it becoming a reality and find and build a network of people to help you manifest that. I think the number one thing that people can do when they have that idea stage and they want to get into building a venture is to build a team of advisors around them and find a way to learn what you don't know. If they spend every day learning what they don't know that's out there that can either help them further the product development or the business, and then also learning the things that are out there like competition or existing solutions that could kill them or get in the way, then they're going to be much better off than if they lived in the dreamlike state of what the vision might be.
And I think there was a follow-up to that, wasn't there, Alex?
Yeah, well, really the question is, if you decide that it's a great thing, what do you do next? And I think David answered that a little bit. It's like, go do the research. Make sure you really have a team behind you. You have advisors, and you're doing the right thing. And I think the other question was, you have to surround yourself with good people, because obviously you can't do it all yourself. But really the question is, where do you find like-minded people to go after?
That's a great question. So one of the investors that had a really great run, unfortunately he's passed on, but when I learned about him and I studied him and I got to know his process a little bit, I've adopted part of it. His name is Richard Rainwater. And from Stanford Business School, he went out and managed some of the Bass family money, then proceeded to lose it all. And then they gave him more money, and they said, figure out what you did wrong. And afterwards, he did really, really well. His advice is basically get as much information as possible until you know the world is at a major inflection point, and then put a lot of money behind your conviction. I think that homework state is what people skip today in the race to build something or ship something or get it successful. And ultimately, there's a lot of value, I believe, from old school networking, sharing your idea, and trying to find advocates that know more than you do, and just be really humble and try to learn from them. And that will make anything that you do better. That's the first, second, and probably third step of advice that I give to people to go from the idea into having a venture, is build yourself a network and share your idea and learn from others that know more than you.
So what I find difficult at times is when you're trying to assemble a team and you want to get a good team behind you, which is very valuable and important, just as you discussed. I find the biggest problem is everybody's living day to day. So they don't have, if they had that kind of money, they would do their things on their own or they would do something else. These are mostly people that are working full-time jobs. They're taking the cash check and they're doing it. So they think that, you know what, I want to be part of your team. I believe in your product or service, but I don't have the opportunity to do so because I don't have the financial resources to just do this. I can spend 2 or 3 hours here or there, but that's it. And that's usually not enough. How do you overcome that problem?
So the problem is that you think people are overstressed, overworked, don't have time to go out there and do the network building?
No, I think that they believe in, they want to be the CTO or the CFO of the company, but they don't have the ability. That company has not monetized itself yet. It's at an early stage, doesn't have the money to really get going. And so, I'm working like Steve Wozniak was at Hewlett Packard, and I got to take that to pay my rent. How am I going to, find those people that?
So, I think that's where this incubator and the whole venture injection has really hijacked the process for what most people should follow in terms of entrepreneurship. I mean, look, when you're broke and you have no money to go apply against the idea, what do you have to lose from communicating to somebody or anybody about something? And it used to be that, for example, when I would write letters to people, literally, and drop them in the mail to complete strangers, I would get responses. I think lifetime, my probably response rate is high 60s, maybe 70% of outbound communication.
Wow.
And it's just because you have to find a human angle to talk to people. I mean, look, one day I was selling a used Jura coffee maker on Craigslist, and the guy called me up, and I didn't make a deal with him, but I recognized him when he called back the second time, and I said, well, what do you do? And he did something that I wanted to learn something about. And I said, look, I'm going to give you the discount on the coffee maker, but I want 30 minutes of your time. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about an area in your domain of expertise. Turns out that he was an expert. I gave him the discount, and now he's working in one of our ventures on the very topic that he was an expert in. So you just have to not be shy to go find. When you have no money, it really doesn't matter. Just open your mouth and say, hey, you know something. I'd like to know something about what you know.
I think you answered 99.9%. The only portion here is that, as I said, I don't think it's not that they don't have the money. They have to have the day-to-day. They don't have the time is the issue, because their time is being spent working at Hewlett Packard or Active Storage or one of those big companies.
There we go.
Correct. Well, so it just comes down to ultimately, a little bit of discipline. So, for example, now in watching my health, I've adopted the Italian version of what they call the passeggiata, which is the after-dinner walk. Sometimes I get it in and sometimes I don't. Like, it's only a half hour, but it's a digestive aid. It's really good for my health. I have to have the discipline to go do that, though, right? And so it just has to I've been successful and I've been a failure in many things in my life, but it is ultimately coming down to time management. And even if you're in the most economically depressed time, you'll find a way to go do it. John Paul DeJoria is a classic example. I mean, the man was homeless, living out of his car, but he still found the drive and found the way to take the product to market. And there are many other examples like that. I'm only one of many. He's probably a much better one.
What are the 5 essential skills you think you need to be successful in business?
Let's talk about putting him on the spot, right? Okay.
It's that legal
5.
background.
The 5. I would say fearless. I think you have to be a little fearless. I think you have to be foolish as well to go in there. I think that you need to have fun. Obviously, we're sticking with the F's here. You need to do something that ultimately is fun. I think that you need to have some foresight. Again, I don't know if I'm sticking with the F's, but you want to envision things that are yet to come, or you want to re-envision the way that a process works, and you want to ultimately make it better. You want to have that drive, not necessarily for profit, but for purpose, basically. And whatever turns you on, be the best at that. And the other one really is that you have to build a team. I think the team is everything. You have to strive to be a servant leader, as they call it, and ultimately your success is built with many others. And you can be a one-man kayak, or you can be in a multi-person canoe. The canoe with many people has much more potential and will go a lot further. And it'll be a lot safer. It'll definitely be a lot more fun.
How many people do you need? What's your minimum for your team, you think?
Well, usually just one, and then you're talking to yourself in the mirror late at night.
Well, that's two.
Yeah, well, under the stress of entrepreneurship, trust me, it could be multiple. But you said yourself, you've been in accounting, you've been a lawyer. I mean, a team, a network, right? And all of those things are important. Today, business is multifactorial and very complex. The good thing is that for a lot of the services that you need in order to operate legally and efficiently, a lot of them are out there either locally or digitally. But beyond that, I would say just go one network at a time and be really open to new directions the business may take. If somebody says, you really should go talk to this person, they have an expertise, I see your business actually more in that area, even though you don't actually view the business that way, go invite the person to lunch or dinner. I think there was a book, Never Eat Alone, and it's just, you never know. Be very open to redirections.
Yeah, I think David, that's really, really, really important. I think one of the things that you hit on all the time, and I think you're 100% right, is that you have to take advice from people and build teams. I think you have to be a smart enough person to know that you need to get that advice, and you can't do it all by yourself, but you can recruit the right people to do it because you have the vision and the dream. I think that also leads to another point that's really interesting, and I found this myself, is that no person is an island, but if you ultimately want to build this, you have to have the dream, and you have to be able to sell everybody on that dream and have them feel the same way. Otherwise, it's going to fall down. You're not going to get people to commit, especially people who have a full-time job and have time, don't have the time to do it. I think teaching people the time management skills and putting the pieces in place are really important to be able to do that. I mean, if you really want to think big and do big, so-called boiling the ocean, it takes a lot of people to do that, and it all starts with one person. In the end, that one person responsible for all of it. So I think you really have to sell that dream, right?
Yeah, I think so, and I think I would actually use the word share rather than sell. I do understand everything you're talking about. I do agree with it wholeheartedly, and I think, Brien, for your listeners here at KHTS and in the local area and people that go to your website, which is a fantastic resource, at the end of the day, I think it's just about basic human-to-human communication. I don't believe that you can link and click your way to building yourself a better network, and I grossly overlooked value-added resource for many people are people that are retired. We have generational shifts here, and everybody thinks, it's digital, it's online, it's everything else. But ultimately, there are a lot of really experienced business people out there that have seen a lot of things come and go. And if you just open up and have a cup of coffee with people, it's a great thing. And these are opportunities that even under the greatest time stress, people should find an opportunity and a way to go take advantage of them. I think they're more accessible than most people think. It's just challenging for them to break out of the day-to-day fight.
I deal with a lot of startups from my legal profession, etc. And for some reason, I always feel that everybody comes to me and they always say the first thing they need, they want an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. They're fearful of telling other people their thing, of their idea, thinking that someone is going to steal. And I always tell them it's all about the execution. It doesn't matter what your idea is. If you don't have the team, if you don't have the resources, if you don't put the effort in, it doesn't matter if it's the next Facebook. It's not going to be the next Facebook. And I find a lot of early on entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs, come into this attitude that I need an NDA before I can tell anybody. Sometimes, not even realizing the attorney-client privilege, they'll even come to my office and say, I need, I can't disclose it to you.
To you, yeah.
Do you find that at all?
Privilege.
Do you find that at all?
Sure, and ultimately, look, everybody is a rookie once, right? So, you just got to give them their pass on that, and you say, okay, well, then I can't talk to you, or you were the one approaching me, et cetera. And it's a judgment call. And look, hopefully their second or third time around, that'll get better, and they'll make more connections to people and share more things. Now, there are different levels and types of NDA. I mean, we've signed NDAs with major technology companies where there's a residual clause, and even if the NDA signed, if they can magically remember everything you told them, guess what? It's fair game. So, there's, it's worth the paper that it's written on, but ultimately people will hopefully evolve. It's a question of sharing at the end of the day. You shouldn't blatantly put yourself out there at risk, but ultimately you do need to have a little bit of risk in order to make connections with others.
you were just mentioning with Alex about the whole concept of, of the old school concept that you still need to go out for the cup of coffee, go out and meet these people. How are you going to meet people in a foreign country that are 5,000 miles away? I mean, that's a little harder. So, I mean, is a Skype call or or Facebook chatting or joining an entrepreneur group online to find your co-founders? Is that something that you would think makes logical sense, or you would think that the logistics of it don't make any sense?
Well, I personally think it's ridiculously easy today. It's never been easier. I'll give you an example from one of my current businesses. So one of the businesses that we're running this in health and wellness, we had the opportunity to work with the U.S. military, and as a result, we liked several of their installations, but there were no buildings on the installation that fit our purposes and needs. So I started to look at building systems that were available in the United States. Nothing really looked really well. They were all steel metal shelf buildings or barns. Nothing was great. So I expanded the search to Asia and to Europe, and I found a company in Europe that had the technology that we wanted, that could give us a turnkey pre-built building for a reasonable cost that also acted like a real building. So I emailed them, and then eventually I went to go see them. But, in the old days, I would have had to look up Yellow Pages and go do searches and go to trade missions. And today it's incredibly easy to go do that. And then you follow up with a phone call. Sometimes you go see them. Sometimes you go do a Skype call. So it just, look, I used to have collections of Yellow Pages from around the world, from hotels that I would visit, and I would bring them back because, there was no internet. That was the way that you kind of looked for resources in the old days. I think the digital world has changed dramatically the person's ability of reaching out, and it's just a question of how much outbound do you do and how focused is it?
So how would you vet somebody from a different country? And by vetting, I mean your due diligence. So, for instance, you went online, you met this great company in Europe.
Yep.
Okay, it looks legit. Okay, but for all you know, it could be 5 pictures some guy picked up, and
sure,
he's running the Nigerian scam. And you send me $1 million, Yeah.
Well, listen, Nigeria is one of the booming economies of the world, and booming technology sector. I bet that most people that had the gumption to leave the United States today and go to Nigeria would do quite well. But no, I think you just have to go with a gut call. Now, in this instance, it was really easy. It was an 85-year-old established family firm with a really big reputation. But I've also looked at companies that are 10 people or 3 or 5 people, and it's just a gut call that you get from going to go see them. And again, I'm very old school. I mean, I fly over 250,000 miles a year and have for the last 20, 25 years because I like breaking bread with people, having a coffee, and going to go see them. Ultimately, that's what drives most of my investment decisions. But I start remotely and I start digitally, and it starts by building things up. I'll share with you, your listeners here, a mantra that I live by in my investment process and business development process, and it's very simple. It's relationships, not transactions. So, that's the lens of which I do most things. And ultimately, when I'm buying something from somebody or I'm investing in them, I'd like to consider it as part of a relationship and not a transaction. Even with Amazon today, I think I have a relationship, and everything that I do is a transaction. But ultimately, they're trying to have a relationship with me, Alexa notwithstanding.
Well, we'll be right back. We're listening with David Park on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM with my co-host Alex.
Lots of people can build websites, but there's one Santa Clarita company that specializes in designing websites for your business. Small Dog Creative. The Small Dog Creative team is made up of local designers who are hands-on. Their talented team of experts build premium websites and redefine branding. Small Dog Creative doesn't just build websites. They'll upgrade your business's online presence and turn your business into a powerful online brand. Small Dog Creative. Santa Clarita's most innovative web and design company. SmallDogCreative.com.
Live life juiced up at Juice It Up Valencia. Come in and try our great tasting smoothies, protein shakes, acai, and wheatgrass for your healthy lifestyle on the go. Also, enjoy our 10 flavors of tantalizing zinc frozen yogurt and selection of healthy toppings. Juice It Up Valencia is located at the corner of Newhall Ranch Road and Copper Hill Drive in the Office Depot Plaza. Open Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. and Sundays from 8 until 8. And remember to live life juiced up at Juice It Up Valencia.
Great healthcare just got easier and more convenient in Canyon Country. Facey Canyon Country is now open directly off the Soledad Canyon exit off the 14 freeway. The 37,000 square foot clinic houses Facey Medical Group primary care physicians, pediatricians, and specialists. Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and PEDS. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
SCV Water is committed to delivering clean, reliable drinking water every day, 24/7, to more than 350,000 residents and businesses that call the Santa Clarita Valley home. Tap into your SCV Water by visiting yourscvwater.com. Manage your account, pay your bill, and find the latest news, rebates, gardening classes, and much more. That's yourscvwater.com.
City of Hope is a world leader in cancer research and treatment. And there's a City of Hope community practice location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita benefits from City of Hope's compassionate care and renowned clinical expertise. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
Santa Clarita's hometown station. Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
You're from Buffalo. What's with the Philadelphia theme here?
I'm at Philadelphia Independence Hall.
Okay.
It's an inspirational. The theme song for S. Brien is very inspirational.
It's
and they even made a movie about it.
They did. They made a movie about it
Rocky.
called Rocky. Yeah, I never thought about that. You were first. Rocky was second.
Don't tell Stallone. He might be at my door. I want in. Adrian. We're back.
We are back.
KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Alex had a follow-up question.
I did have a follow-up question. So, David, I mean, your relationships, all these things you've done, I mean, old school is still new school in that relationships still count, right? That there's no doubt about it. People buy from people, people learn from people, and they go forward. So, your business that you're in, it's quite significant, right? I mean, you said health and wellness. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of things going there. I mean, what unique things are you working on? What makes this so incredible and the next big thing?
That's a great question, Alex. Look, the way that we look at it is that there's going to be a shift to value in healthcare and a shift to preventative and upstream. And we've spent a lot of time over the last, let's say, 10 years analyzing the space and making small investments in various companies that may have different approaches to it. So I think what's going to make us different in that space is a complete understanding of the ecosystem and all of the players, and not necessarily a rush to basically go create the next big thing. Because when we were working in very large, systemically complex opportunities, they take a long time to unfold. So this has been an evolution of my involvement in entrepreneurship and venture capital over the last 2 decades, in that it used to be that we wanted to basically get into the hot thing, and you always hear about this trend, and then there's a number one company, a number two, and a number three, and they're all battling out for supremacy. If you shift a little bit and you move a little bit further out and you look at very large economic opportunities, you should be able to find edges in the marketplace and create companies to serve those discrete needs in very unique ways. So that's the kind of investor that we are, and that's how we're looking at making these investments very systemically, creating fundamental technologies and services that everybody can access and use.
So is that considered your competitive advantage? For instance, if there's 2 or 3 or 4 people all want to invest in the next, Uber software company, whatever, right? Have you been involved in situations where you wanted to invest and others wanted to invest and you got locked out?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of turned us away from basically playing follow the leader and ultimately who is the leader. So we're much more focused on the economics of a market and an opportunity, outwardly focused, than focused on the belly button gazing of Silicon Valley, where they're all huddled around Sand Hill Road or in south of Market, talking about the next hot X, Y, and Z. and then they all rush into it, and then all of a sudden it's not the next hot thing, and you heard them do the classic pivot. If you understand where a market's going to go over time, you can pivot within that, but you don't have to pivot relative to competition. And look, we're a very, very small firm and small fund compared to all the big giants, so we have to have a differential. If they're zigging, we're zagging.
Do you have an affiliation with an accelerator?
No, we currently don't. Don't really believe in the model, to tell you the truth.
Interesting. Now, what is the biggest, most successful company that you and your fund invested?
Well, not this particular fund, but earlier in my career, I helped create and bring to market a company that was building multilingual software in the mid-'90s for beepers and cell phones, where we had read a report. Beepers, pagers, back in the day.
I know, not everybody else.
Yes. We saw that these were becoming all from audio-only devices into multi-character devices, and every country around the world was doing it. And based on a report that we saw in Motorola's research lab that China was going to be the largest market for this by the year 2000, we decided to invest in making multilingual software for messaging with a single interface that operators around the world could use, a very Macintosh-like approach toward writing software. And that software was very successful, and ultimately I think it's still used by hundreds of operators around the world today for SMS and other types of message sending. And that company was eventually sold to a subsidiary of AOL. That was a very large company with millions of users around the world. That was an early big win for me.
You've been a great guest. We want to have you back. We're approaching the end of the show, and thank you very much, Dave. I would like to have you back on again. And you're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM with my co-host Alex and my guest David Parker. Thank you very much.
Life's not meant to feel complacent. It's meant to make you feel alive. The youth ministry at the Church on the Way Santa Clarita believes that students can belong to the group where we will help them